Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on any purchase over $10. See the description below for details. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to a special edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch, where we're going to look at Ravnica Allegiance price trends now that the set's been out for about 3 weeks. We have 3 weeks of competitive play that we can reference at this point, so we are starting to see prices solidify a little bit on these cards. Quickly before we get started though, just a fast reminder, if you're looking for a way to support what we do here at the channel, just check out the description below. You're going to find a link to our Patreon page down there. That's always appreciated. You're also going to find links to products on Amazon. If you make any purchases there, we'll get a small percentage. And finally, Flipside Gaming still offering a promo code for our viewers. When you use that promo code, that helps us out too. But as always, thank you not only to the folks that look at those links, but to all of you. Y'all make the channel what it is. Thank you very much, and let's get into it. Alright, let's begin with the top 10 Ravnica Allegiance cards that have lost value this week. Now, these cards for the most part aren't necessarily seeing no play or anything like that, but they're not seeing the amount of play that maybe was expected originally, and they are still losing value, so let's see what's going on. Number 10, Prime Speaker Vannifar goes down 55 cents to $12.31. Now, the reason this is over $10 at this point is just simply Commander. Is it seeing a lot of standard play? No, it's not really doing much there. Modern, there is a deck that is built around this card. However, it's a little too early to call whether it's going to be able to break into a big top 8 yet or not. I'm a little skeptical, but if it were to happen, this card could ignite pretty quickly. With that being said, though, Commander will still prop up this price for a little bit. Number 9 is Electro Dominance, down 61 cents to $3.71. This card has a lot in common with the previous one. This one's a rare, not a mythic, so it's not holding as much value, but Commander players are also interested in this card because of the way it combos with things like Suspend cards. Now, Modern is kind of interesting too. People have been trying to brew with this card, but I don't really see a brand new Modern deck built around this card doing a whole lot. However, what you might see is the As Foretold Living End deck perform better due to Electro Dominance being in it. And if that's the case and that deck eventually can put up a top 8 or something in a big tournament, well, this card actually could heat up. But that is a big leap. We're not there yet. What about Standard? Has it seen play there? Just a little bit, not a whole lot. A couple weeks ago, there was a Temur Reclamation deck that did pretty well. It was running one copy of this in the main. This week, the Temur Reclamation decks that were performing well kind of turned away from the burn strategy and went more towards creatures. So you didn't see copies of this in the top 8 of major tournaments this week, and I do think this will lose more value. Number 8, Dovin Grand Arbiter, goes down 64 cents to $7.29. Dovin's kind of kicking around in Standard, not necessarily in high quantities, definitely not enough to warrant a $7.30 price tag. This will lose more value. Last week, though, there was a BAMP mid-range deck, came in 19th place at the Star City Games Open, running 2 of these in the main, 1 in the side. That's kind of the type of play you've been seeing with this card, a couple here, a couple there, but I do think you will be able to get it cheaper very soon. Number 7, Growth Chamber Guardian, down 90 cents to $4.50. This is a pretty solid card, but the problem is a lot of the decks that want to run this aren't performing as well in the current meta right now, so it is underperforming expectations a little bit. With that being said, it still actually looked pretty good last week. Saltai Climb came in 15th place at the Star City Games Open, running 4 of these in the main. BAMP Midrange came in 19th place, running 4 of these in the main as well. So this card is not going to go anywhere, but again, it could lose more value. Number 6 is Gargant Hellkite, down 92 cents to $7.50. Much like the previous card, this isn't necessarily not showing up in Standard, it's just that the aggro decks running it aren't doing all that great right now in the meta. Because of that, this continues to lose value. Now in Pro Tour Ravnica Allegiance, or as it's now known as Mythic Championship 1, there's a chance that maybe an aggro deck with this card could do well, just because aggro tends to do well in that very specific type of meta. And if that happens, a lot of people might decide to buy into this card. It could stabilize, maybe even go up. But that kind of is a big leap at this point. If something like that doesn't happen in the coming weeks, then this card will lose more value. Number 5, Biogenic Ooze, goes down $1 to $8.94. Another card that had high hopes going into the first week of Standard and just hasn't quite gotten there. Does it show up in some decks here or there? Sure. Worth $9? At this point, no. It's going to lose more value again unless something changes. A lot of folks thought maybe that Biogenic Ooze quasi-duplicate deck could get there. It doesn't feel like that's going to happen. Where does this card see play, though? Well, Simic Nexus came in 4th place at the Open. There was 1 copy in the side there this week. Also, sometimes you'll find a copy in the main of Sultai mid-range decks. Not all the time, but every once in a while. So, again, it's not going to disappear, I don't think, necessarily, but don't spend $9 on this right now. Number 4, Judith the Scourge Diva, down $1.13 to $4. Similar issue as many of the other cards. There are players trying to get this to work in Modern. We'll have to see how that pans out. As for Standard, Aristocrats just aren't getting there right now. It is still early. It could change, but at least currently it just feels like that deck can't get off the ground, and unless something changes fast, it is going to disappear into obscurity pretty soon. With that being said, though, this is another good Commander card. A lot of Commander players are interested in this, which is why it's still $4 at this point, but it is losing value. Number 3, Spawn of Mayhem, down $1.39 to $9.50. Couple of reasons why this is happening. The first is simply because it's not seeing as much play as many people thought. And it is seeing some play. Rakdos Aggro came in 11th at the Star City Games Classic this week, 4 copies in the main of that deck. And there are some other mid-range decks that aren't performing all that well, but they are out there and they are running this card. But another reason this is losing value is because tomorrow the guild kits come out, and guess what? The Rakdos guild kit is going to have a copy of this card in it. A lot of these are going to enter the market, and this is really going to lose a lot of value quickly. Number 2, Domri Chaos Bringer goes down $1.47 to $8. And yeah, you know what? Those Gruul aggro decks, they just haven't taken off yet. Now, if there's any deck that could take off late, I would say maybe it's the Gruul aggro deck. And if that's the case, then this card might be able to stabilize in the next few weeks, maybe. But also, not all the copies of that deck are running this. So if a deck does well and it happens to not be running this, well, it's still going to continue to lose value. So I think overall, $8 is still expensive to spend on this. Even if it does do well in a Gruul deck in the future, that's only one deck in a number of decks in the meta. I don't think it's going to hold at $8 regardless. Number 1, Angel of Grace goes down to $1.57 to $6.70. Here we go again, another card that has had its moments, but it's not seeing the amount of play that many people anticipated. The first week, there was definitely some promise here. Last week, it still had some success when it comes to big tournaments. Star City Games Classic, that Bant Reclamation deck that came in 7th place, was running 2 of these in the main. So again, the card's not going to disappear, but $6.70 is just too much considering the play it's seeing right now. Okay, let's move on to our top 6 Ravnica Allegiance cards that have gained value this week. Now, we're only doing 6 because once you get to 7, 8, 9, 10, the cards were only moving by pennies. It wasn't really telling you much. So we'll start with 6. And that number 6 card is Light Up the Stage, up 16 cents to $2.41, the first of 2 uncommons that you're going to find in our top 6. And that says something when an uncommon makes it on this list. It has to be doing some work, and in this case, that is true. However, I do want to point out, if you compare the results of the big tournaments last week and this week, the card was seeing less play this week. Now, those are just from the more successful decks. When it comes to decks overall, the card was still in a lot of places. You're going to find this in modern burn decks, for example, even though the one that made the top 8 in the SCG Classic this weekend was not running it. Also, many standard aggro builds will run this, but the one deck that did do well this weekend still with this card was the Mono Red Phoenix deck, which came in 8th place at the Star City Games Modern Classic. It was running 4 of these in the main. Number 5, Deputy of Detention goes up 29 cents to $2.85. This is one card that might actually be just a little undervalued. If you look at the amount of play that it saw in successful decks last weekend, it felt like it was all over the place. Here's a quick list of where we saw this. Azorius aggro decks. Now, if you go to the Star City Games Open, one came in 3rd, one came in 5th. Both those decks were running this card. In the Classic, there was an Azorius aggro deck coming in 1st and 2nd place. Although the one that came in 1st place was not running this card, the one in 2nd was. Bant Midrange in the Open came in 19th running this. Bant Nexus came in 3rd in the Classic running this. Bant Reclamation came in 7th in the Classic running this. Bant Spirits came in 9th in the Modern Classic running 1 copy of this in the main. So this is definitely a card to keep an eye on. Number 4, Plaza of Harmony goes up 33 cents to $2.39. Now, the 4-color Gates decks didn't perform as well this weekend as they were over the last couple weeks. However, there's a variation on that deck, the Nexus of Gates deck, that did do pretty well. Star City Games Classic, one of those decks came in 4th place, and of course, 4 of these were in the main there. Number 3, Breeding Pool. Alright, this is the only Shockland on our list today, going up 49 cents to $10.99, but it's such an important part of big mana bases right now. Decks like Sultai Midrange, 4-color Gates, Nexus of Gates, Bant Nexus, Temur Reclamation, they're all running this. And of course, you'll find this in a lot of big modern decks too. Number 2, Terramander. Here's the second uncommon, going up 63 cents to $1.85. Wow. Why is that? Well, Terramander looked good in previous weeks. It looked even better this week. Mono Blue Aggro came in first and 6th place at the Star City Games Open, 4th place in the Classic. Guess what? All those decks were running 4 copies of this in the main. Teamer Drakes came in 14th place at the Open, 4 copies in that deck. Is It Drakes came in 17th place, 4 copies there. Modern Is It Phoenix came in 3rd place at GP Toronto, running 2 copies of this in the main. So yes, this crept into Modern as well. The card had a huge weekend. Number 1, who else? Hydroid Crisis goes up 90 cents to $37.99. So the ascent is slowing down, but I do think it will go up just a little bit more before it finally does stabilize. The card is simply everywhere. And when I say everywhere, it's not just like a copy or 2 copies like a lot of the cards we've been talking about today. We're talking 3 or 4 copies. Here's a quick list for you. Simic Nexus, Star City Games Open, 4th place, 3 in the main. Sultai Midrange, 8th place at the Open, 4 in the main. Teamer Drakes, 14th place in the Open, 3 in the main. Sultai Klein, 15th place, 4 in the main. Nexus of Gates, 6th place in the Classic, 4 in the main. Bant Reclamation, 7th place in the Classic, 3 in the main. This is the darling of the current meta. Players are just splashing colors now to just put this into any old deck, it feels like. It's just that solid. Even when it gets countered, it still draws you cards and lets you gain life. And that's the real key here. Sure, it can get destroyed. And if it gets destroyed, it gets destroyed. But you know what? You just drew a bunch of cards and gained a whole bunch of life off this thing many times. Even if I only played this for 6, I'm still getting a 4/4 flying trample creature and I draw 2 cards and gain 2 life. Even if it gets countered, I draw 2 cards and gain 2 life. Not bad at all, right? This thing is incredible. Expect to see a lot of it going forward this season and many seasons to come. Alright, that concludes our look at Ravnica Allegiance Saturday. We will be back here with our look at everything else in the secondary market when we do our regular episode of the Market Watch. Until then, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon and have a great day.